Sweetbriar consists of 30 flats and cottages for retired people.
Sweetbriar was built in the late 1980s, and most of us have a lease that starts from 1988. And it's a very creative and constructive way of building a place for over 55s. So we've got a row of cottages, which were originally here, of course, along North Street. And then we've got the building that I'm in now and one that runs along and a few others. And there is, of course, just round the corner from me here, the old bakery with a plaque on the side attributing it to the Higgins, Bernard and Beryl Higgins, who originally owned the land. And they had the coach business, of course, which is where the garage was, opposite here. Absolutely love living here. Beautifully located. We're behind the post office and the shop. There's a bus stop right next door. There's a pub and a church just up the road. Our current owners or landlords and also managing agents are Green Square Accord. And they look after the entire exterior of the buildings. We own the interior, so there is no control from them over how we are inside.
It's always been a very, very happy place. When I first came, we had a full-time warden, and this was very, very good. Every single person felt that they were cared for. If they didn't want to be bothered by the warden, she didn't go in, but she did know when anyone that needed extra help or just someone to talk to. This was then put down to a part-time warden, and now we don't have a warden at all. So it has made quite a few problems for people who are elderly or infirm. We don't have anyone to check on them, so that falls on to people within Sweetbriar itself, so the residents. And as you can imagine, residents are also getting older, and so therefore it's not quite as easy to be calling on other people to make sure they're all right. However, that is what is done.
I've lived at Sweetbriar for the past almost 13 years. I really love it here because in our little community, we help one another, we're supportive, kind, and people help one another out whenever they can. One of the most important things, of course, is getting together.
One of the difficulties for us is that we have nowhere really to meet unless we want to go and lurk in the laundry room. Or if it's not too cold, we can sit outside, or we can go in front of the cottages, which we do in the summertime for tea and cake and a natter.
We try whenever possible to get together at least once, twice, maybe even 3 times a week if we can, and we always get together for birthdays.
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Keith, happy birthday to you.
One of the things that has been started by our great cake maker, Liz Mason, is the birthday celebration, and by Eileen Donnelly as well. They work together and announce every so often there will be a birthday party for X around the corner, 3 o'clock on this day, and we go along, those who want to.
Keith's favourite chocolate.
We are a community here, and most of us like getting together, but the lack of a communal space has caused us quite a bit of grief over the last couple of years, especially coming out of the pandemic.
We noticed that after the lockdown, that people did become more insular. They weren't going out quite so much. And this was particularly bad in the winter because they couldn't move easily from flat to outside through the car park if there was any ice at all, or if it was too cold, and people became very, very lonely. And we were aware of this.
And so approaches were made to try and interest Green Square Accord in finding some space here for us to meet together.
When I first came here about 15 years ago, we had a very special flat that we were allowed to meet in. That was then taken away from us, so therefore we had nowhere to meet. And that was why it's become so important that we should have somewhere now that everyone can get together, just to be together.
Don't have anywhere where we can all get together, and there are a lot of people living here who are infirm, also a lot of people who are disabled, and a lot of people who are very, very lonely.
We used to, when there was a room, which was in number 24, go over there and play games or meet in each other's spaces. But that is much more difficult now to do, and obviously in the winter time.
In the winter time, it's a bit more difficult. We do have a gazebo with sides, but obviously in the winter, less people can come.
So we asked Green Square if we could use one of the sheds that we had already to make a meeting room. Well, this was refused, and it took us about 18 months of constantly changing, asking in different ways if we could do something, and we eventually found a place, and they did agree that we could build a shed, and it had to be called a shed, although we like to call it a garden room. So that is what we're doing. We got funding for it. We have been funded by the Anson Trust very, very generously, and we're very grateful to them for doing this. And people are very excited, the fact that they are going to be able to meet.
So, on behalf of the residents of Sweetbriar, I'm very happy to welcome all of our guests this afternoon to the grand opening of the shed. I shall ask Chris Hillier from the Anson Trust to cut the ribbon so that we can open the doors of our beautiful new meeting room.
I really, really do like living here at Sweetbriar very much. I love the opportunity, especially from where I am, to sit and see folk going by, to chat around here, to visit, and just to be part of a community. The community feel is very, very strong. The lighting at night here is very fierce, and we spent a lot of time and energy trying to improve that by putting in sensor lamps, or by inviting our landlord to do that. We thought we got there, including even having a little sort of referendum, inviting people for their comments, and everybody said that they would like to have less lighting.
I'm in my kitchen and there's a security light right outside my window. It's very bright, and even if you pull the blinds down at night, the light still filters through.
For some, it even means that they need to draw their curtains in order to keep the light out.
With it being on all night, it's quite invasive. And if anyone was sleeping on this side of the apartment, it would definitely keep them awake all night.
It had been completely agreed with Green Square Accord that sensor lighting would come in, but things dwindle out. Changeover of staff perhaps is part of it, maybe a lack of will or energy. We will probably, having now achieved the garden room or the shed, go back on that one and fight a little bit more.